Hi there. I hope I'm wrong, but Bitcoin seems to be building its path towards the 74K level, like we talked about a couple of months back. So let's quickly look at Bitcoin price through the Wyckoff lens and see what the whales are doing. If you're new to my sessions, I'll cover the Wyckoff stage, the trend change risk, as well as key price levels. So let's start with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. The reason I'm saying that in the beginning is that Bitcoin is exhibiting a pattern that looks very similar to the one back in the cycle, this distribution cycle in 2021, ending in early 2022. So I'll show you in a minute what are those similarities. It doesn't mean it's going to happen the same way all the time, but those signals are pointing towards a leg downwards, at least for a short while, if not a complete collapse, okay? So Wyckoff stage, like we talked about, there are multiple possibilities. The highest one is that it is the last point of supply over here, meaning it's a point where the whales probably are going to offload whatever they have left on hand, while the retail are still buying the dip, all right? And the positive thing came, audience would ask me, would there be a possibility for Bitcoin price to go back up to at least challenge the 104K? I said if this particular period is a reaccumulation, like what it did back in March 2025, right over here, then there's the possibility that it goes up for another round of tests or even setting a higher high than the previous period back in September. But that's not the likely scenario that we are seeing as of this moment. There's a chance, but not that is a big one. More often than not, I talk about the sign of weakness around 74K. This is a level where March 2025, or even since late February 2025, came down and tested. Back then, Bitcoin was still within this green upward channel. All right, right now it's not over there anymore. It even has the difficulty to go back to challenge the bottom of the channel. Because a lot of times, if there's sufficient support or people are still kind of bullish, these kind of rally would push the price back to challenge the bottom of the upward channel. But look at what happened. After 2 months, or even over 2 months after Bitcoin broke outside of the channel, it hasn't got a chance to even challenge the 104K, let alone the bottom of the channel. So that's the big picture. All right. Be very careful if you're buying the dip now. Even though I said Bitcoin, I said back in November when Bitcoin first broke outside of the channel, I said Bitcoin is going to go through a very boring period, and indeed, it bounced between the 81K all the way to 98K. All right, it's been sideways for almost 3 months now, and the pattern that I'm seeing is showing me that things may change. All right, so we'll get to the daily to look at the detail after I show you what the patterns are. Okay, it's a little bit different than usual because a pattern has evolved, so I'm trying to show you what's going on. So let's use these boxes. So in the case of an accumulation or reaccumulation, whatever people like to call, it's just accumulation to me. You see these kind of trends, or people that analyze using candlestick patterns. They say it's a bull flag. All right. It looks like it's trending downwards. It's slightly trending downwards indeed. And then when it breaks out, it heads to the upside. All right. If I switch on the Bollinger Band curve squeeze, you see the squeeze happened and then it squeezed the price up. Over here, the squeeze happened, but it squeezed the price down. And more importantly, these trends if I copy or overlay that to what happened back in 2021, we see something similar. That was a small cycle compared to the massive one that we are going through right now. You see that slightly trending downward pattern over here, right? It's got those wicks tested lower levels until the point it found support at the red key level of 31,800, and then it shot to the upthrust. And what's similar right now is that it's no longer trending downwards, but upwards instead. So back in 2022, when Bitcoin's price came down from the upthrust, it traded sideways for about 2.5 or 3 months. It's very similar to what's happening right now. And then, see what happened. It peaked at that point. Let me zoom in so you can see clearer. That LPSY over here, that's last point of supply over here. You see this, the candle went up, the white candles, but the volume wasn't very high compared to the previous ones, okay? And when it got to this point, you see this sort of like a red cross kind of thing. It's like a U-turn from this white candle to this bulls and bears equal fight, and then the bears hit it hard and pushed it down to the final leg into the accumulation cycle, what I call the Ice Age period, between 2002 all the way into 2024, before the price actually got outside of the accumulation. So remember this upward trending box from this long red candle down to this point where it U-turned. It took 70 days, 10 bars in total, okay, 10 weeks, 2.5 months. Looking at where we are now, let's bring that over. All right, from this long candle down to where we are now, 9 bars now. Okay, so let me enlarge this so the wicks are covered. All right, so again, slightly upwards. So you see the 4 phases during 2 different cycles. This macro one that we are going through, all right? This gigantic one. And then this, back then it was gigantic, but right now it's like David and Goliath, all right? And here, you see the trending down period during the first sign of weakness. Very similar to the reaccumulation. There was a small, tiny sign of weakness trending down period as well, but then it bounces up and shot to the upthrust, like what it did back in 2021. All right, very similar. You see this trend down, shot up, took a pause, upthrust. Trend down, took a pause, and then upthrust. There was a bit of wiggle over there as well because Bitcoin price was reaching a level that, a lot of people are starting to take profit compared to the one over here. It jiggled a little as well, not quite as much as what we see over here, but like it's the same, right? It doesn't repeat exactly the same. It rhymes. So you see the leg up, you took a pause, and then you see the jiggle, and then it comes down. It went up, took a jiggle, took a pause, and then another jiggle, and then come down. We are at a very similar stage at this point. All right, and the trending up sign is definitely not something comfortable to see. All right, that's why I said I hope I'm wrong, and that it's still going to do well in the long run. Just that in the short term, some risk may be showing up. And also, if we look at last week's volume bar, don't just look at the white color plus the high volume. If you look at the candlestick, it actually is a long wick. The bears hit it very hard from the 98K, pushing the price back to the 93, 94K level. All right. So from the big picture, it's telling us a lot. Let's go to the daily chart right now. So here, just last week, when we talked about this, we haven't talked about the Jan 26 because I said, Bitcoin, if it continues its trend, if it stays above this 94K, it was on the 17th, we did the last session, right? The volume came down a bit and there was a wick coming from below on Friday. So I said, if the bulls successfully defend the 94K line, we'll continue to observe these dates. But things changed very quickly. In the subsequent 3 days, the bears came in. You see the volume kept rising. Even on this Wednesday, it's not something that we should be happy about because it's basically an equal fight between the bulls and the bears. You see the wicks from both sides. They are of equal length almost, right? Sometimes it's even longer on the bear side. So when the bulls try to push the price back to above the blue key level of 91K, they got heavily rejected, right? So the micro picture is telling us the bears are having the upper hand right now. We are going through, again, the weekend. Weekend is usually a little bit more silent. You have to take into account time zone differences as well. Saturday, or actually even Friday for the Western Hemisphere is Saturday for the Eastern side. So things start to get a little bit slower, even on Friday. And then when we get to Saturday, it's like the Sunday for Asia and basically Eastern Hemisphere. So probably half, if not most, of the people are not actively trading. So it's a tricky part. Every time when we look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, everything seems to be taking a pause. All right. This was a bit silent as well. This was a bit silent. And then here, you see the candlestick within the week. The one on Saturday is the shortest. Okay. So we can't say definitely what's going to happen when Monday comes. All right. It could be another bloodbath coming to challenge the 85K. All right. That's what happened over here back in mid-December. And this long red candle, look across to the left. There were 2 times, beginning of December, near the end of November, we had those scales. The volume is a little bit better than what we had back then, but not too far from what happened back then. So be careful. If you try to buy the dip, you see this red candle, you buy the dip, it's fine, you play the game. Just that, like I said, always have your stop loss ready. The world is going through a stage where panic is not at its peak yet. Right? People are starting to panic. The ones that pay attention, they know or they get a sense of what's going on and they start to panic already. But there are a lot of people still going through that stage of, maybe hearing from friends or starting to catch those tiny little bits from YouTube or from the news. And it's definitely coming. And like I shared in the Japanese interest rate video, that this is the very first time Bitcoin is going through such a scenario since the birth of Bitcoin, all right? So whether or not there are sufficient diamond hands for Bitcoin to basically support its price above the 74K key level that I shared over here, the light blue key level, or even the 60K, 62.5, the green key level where the reaccumulation happened back in 2024. All right. Are those people that got in during those periods diamond hands that are going to stay if this unprecedented macro environment for Bitcoin is evolving and getting realized now? Are they going to stay, or are they going to leave Bitcoin for a while to see what happens and let Bitcoin's price to drop? This is the biggest test for Bitcoin for ever since it started back in 2029. Okay, so it started very early, 2029, and after 26, 27 years, it has gotten to a point. I'm not talking about the price. It doesn't matter how high or how low it is. It's the macro environment that it hasn't gone through before. So is it going to behave like those people, those hardcore supporters are saying that Bitcoin is going to be the safe haven, same as gold, or is it not? If it is, let's say if people believe 100% that it is same as gold, then it should behave like gold right now, right? Gold is making new high every single day. It's hitting $5,000. But Bitcoin isn't creating a new high. It has dropped quite a bit from the top. So that may be a sign that there are quite a number of people still hesitant about Bitcoin being the same kind of safe haven as gold or even silver. All right. So a pretty long session for Bitcoin for today. Hope that everybody in Bitcoin preserve your wealth while this uncertain period is evolving. So if you're new to my channel, you can join the channel membership to get access to these sessions 2 days earlier than the others. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later.